Welcome to the Aceman, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for downloading us. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it so very much. And if you have a moment, please give us that 5-star written review wherever you download your podcast. It's a great way to help the podcast. If you want to help us out another way, tell a friend. We all learn about podcasts from our friends' recommendations, and that's a way you can help us out by recommending us to a friend.
And the last way, if you really enjoy the show, is to go to our Patreon page and become a patron. And that is at www.patreon.com/behindthefunny. And what that will get you, it's one simple giving level, $5 a month. That will get you a t-shirt or a mug, some sort of merchandise, as well as unlocking bonus content that only our patrons can access.
Thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to reach out, you got a question for us, you got a comment, anything, please send us an email at behindthefunnypod@gmail.com.
And now, enjoy the show.
Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you're as excited as we are this week. We got a great episode for you guys. But before we get to that, our bourbon date this week, we wanted to bring out a rock date this week.
Yes.
My buddy Ace
goes along with our guest because she's a rocker.
Yes.
And we wanted to bring back the Motorhead Ace of Spades bourbon in honor of our guest and
our rock star guest this week. So
we already told her beforehand. Oh, you want clinkies?
Of course.
We already told her beforehand we're going to have a hard time not fanboying out because we've been very, very excited about this upcoming guest.
Yes, I was so excited. I got to Ace's house last night to get ready for this.
That was a little creepy too.
Yeah,
My kids thought it was a little weird.
I was peeking in the
why
windows.
Why is Uncle Scott here again?
Yeah.
And why do we call him Uncle Scott?
Yeah, no one ever told them to, and they just started to.
Yeah, I know. No, we're so excited, and we're going to get going right away because our guest is someone who, I mean, if you watched Comedy Central and VH1 Stand-Up Spotlight and MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour and Ladies Night Out and every one of the stand-up specials that came out in the 80s, she was prominently on every one of these and has had her own special.
If you list all her credits, we'll run out of time on the podcast.
I know. I shouldn't do that, but I'm just so excited because we're so excited to welcome to the Behind the Funny podcast tonight, Miss Wendy Liebman. And
you guys are drunk already.
Yeah.
and all we had was a sip.
I know. We only had a sip.
One sip. That's it.
You know, my career started. First of all, I have to say I'm having a bad hair day, so I apologize because life is all about your hair, right?
Wrong.
Yeah. Well, as Scott said before,
hello.
He'd be happy with a hair day.
A hair day.
A hair day. Yeah.
That's true, and I'm sorry about that. Although I think older men it's like sexy because it's a little bit naked.
Yeah.
But my career.
Okay, I got a new way of looking at it now. I like that. You've made my day.
He's gonna go back to his wife and go, "How do you like my naked head?"
I'm already partially there.
Yeah. So you started saying your career started actually in our area, right? So we're recording from Rhode Island, but we're both, New England comics, and you started in New England, didn't you?
I started in Boston, and I had a day job, but every day I would drive to Rhode Island,
really,
Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, or New York or Western Mass, and then be back at work the next morning. So that was the first 6 years of my comedy. But what I was going to say is my comedy career sort of was catapulted when I was part of the Johnny Walker Comedy Search that the Improv did in 1991. And so that brought me out to LA. I did that in Boston, but I didn't know you guys were from Rhode Island. How did you find me?
Well, listen, I found you because I was a fan of yours from back, again, I remember Ladies Night Out. I remember, it was you, Brett Butler, Jan Karam. I'm trying to think of some of the other, was Felicia Michaels part of that too?
Well, there were a lot of different shows, and they were all part of it. Carol Siskind, Kathy Ladman.
Right. And so that's the thing. I remember because when I started, I started in 1989, just as the comedy boom was ending, but it was the boom of everyone getting on TV. So Comedy Central had just started as the comedy channel, and they were starved for talent, and so they came around to different clubs throughout the country and would record a show, and then you'd get your 3 minutes on stand up or short attention span theater.
You said you started right at the end of the boom. Ace, it's all about timing.
I know. Well, I was 21 at the time, so I don't know how much younger I could have gone. I probably could have gone younger, but
no, that's great. I mean, there's always opportunity. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
There's so many things that you can apply that can be applied to being a funny person. So
I started in 89. Were you still in the Boston area at that point, or had you already left?
I was there until 91.
Okay.
And I worked a lot at Catch Rising Star in Cambridge.
Okay.
And the Comedy Connection. And I used to wait at lunch. I would go to the payphone bank and bring my bag of dimes and call into different clubs.
With your avails.
Yeah, because
this was before bringer shows, so I didn't do that. And if people don't know what a bringer show is, it's like you have to bring guests, and they have to pay tickets for a seat, even though the talent wasn't getting paid, probably.
Right. Yeah.
So, comedy has changed a lot.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before, because we have a lot of younger comedians that listen to us, and nowadays it's about emails and instant messages.
Yeah.
Whereas we just last week we were talking about sending out your press kit with your video cassette and your headshot and your resume. And I remember you mentioned the Comedy Connection. That's the first place I ever performed, when it was in Faneuil Hall, and you had to call on Mondays between 4 and 6 to get your spot. No other day of the week, no other time on Monday.
And then Nick's
it had to be 4 to 6.
But Nick's would be a different day. So you literally...
Dick Doherty was on Wednesdays.
Right.
Everybody had their day and time that you could call to get your spots.
Exactly.
Right. So I performed at the Comedy Connection in Rhode Island.
Oh yeah. Yep.
A couple of times. I think Joe Rogan opened for me once.
Wow.
I'm not bitter.
No. Yeah. Hey, my first paying gig was a hell gig with Joe Rogan as the headliner, and I was one of the opening people. So I'm not bitter either.
Where was that, Ace?
Oh, it was a hell gig in Narragansett, Rhode Island, called Windsor's. There was a guy named Brian Deary who had the Funny Farm comedy.
I did that.
I'm sure you did. Yeah. It's so funny because, like I said, so I started at a club called Periwinkles. Do you remember Periwinkles in Providence? Charlie Hall.
Loved that club.
It was a great club.
It was great. And so
with Frank Santarelli.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard our opening montage, but
he's the first voice you hear.
He's the first voice you hear that says we're coked up out of our minds in the montage was Santarelli. But yeah, so Charlie Hall had given me advice, though, which I'm glad that I did. But then I missed out on getting to meet people like you, David Cross. I think Mark Maron had already left by 89. But Charlie had given me advice. He said, look, start here, get good here before you go to Boston open mics. Work it out here. And so I didn't start going to Boston until literally 1991, 92.
I think
just
that was
kind of
really smart advice.
Yeah, no, I appreciated it because I didn't get eaten alive at open mics. I had already failed at crappy bar gigs down here before I,
Nobody
before I
told
went
me
there.
that. I just jumped right into the fire
right.
of Boston.
You went right to LA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I remember Charlie Hall's pictures of the bands.
Yep.
Oreo Speedwagon.
Yeah.
Yes,
He
yes.
still has it. He's
And
still Wendy.
Sister.
Twisted Sister
Yes.
was the Twisted Nun. You know what's funny? And I bust Charlie about this all the time because I said, what's funny is you used to do that joke as, it's hard keeping up with all these new band names, So I came up with these flashcards to do it. I said, and now you're like, I try and tell the kids about the classic band names, and the only way I can explain them is with these cards. I said, you literally still have these relevant cards that are 35 years old. All you had to do is change the setup, and the friggin' jokes still work perfect.
Well, I started a joke when I was 23 about how old I was, saying I'm 23 for 2 years now, and I've been telling that joke for 5. Now I'm up at 56.
You're
I've been
right.
doing it all these years, but a joke is a joke. Like
Exactly.
a laugh, it gets a laugh. And I have also, I used to say my parents still have sex because they want grandchildren. And now I say it about my husband and me.
So you just adapted the joke. That's all.
And I definitely want to talk about that too, about your
About
husband.
me.
No.
Or her,
No, that
or
came
her
out
parents
wrong.
having sex.
No,
Which one do you
about
want to
her
talk
husband,
about?
because I was doing research for the show. As I say, I read people's bios and I learn about them. And I want to talk about your husband
Now-
and his family.
But I want to ask a question we like to ask people. Do you remember the very first time
Yeah.
you went on a stage and tried stand-up? For the very first time?
I mean, how could you forget that, Scott? It's
I know that.
your
I
first
know that.
kiss.
First kiss.
Where was it at?
My first kiss. What? No, I'm kidding. Well, I took a class at the Cambridge Center for Adult Ed called "How to Be a Stand-Up Comedian." Ron Lynch was the teacher,
Yeah.
and he has since gone on to be on the Sarah Silverman program and in Bob's Burgers and the movie.
Yep.
He was a great teacher. And I first performed in his apartment for the rest of the class. So that's not what you mean. But on stage, I went to Stitches, not even sure it's still there.
No,
Which is
it's been gone for
unfortunately,
a long
no.
time. Yeah,
Oh
Calm
my
Ave.
God. I saw I'm blanking on his name, but Sam Kinison there.
Oh, wow.
And I was performing one night, my first night, and I got off stage, and the person from my class that came with me, Steve Silberberg, he said, nobody could hear a word you said.
Oh, really?
And I lost my wallet.
Oh, my
But you know
God.
what?
You did
know
it.
what? I just knew I should be there. And I knew all the times I sucked, I
Yep.
still just was, well, I'm just supposed to be here. And I
Yeah.
tried everything, you guys. I would go on stage with army boots and a skirt. I would go on stage with a carrot one time. Like I was trying to find myself.
Right.
You're
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to find your voice, right?
Your voice, your
I had
look.
big earrings. I had short hair. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So now I realize it's more just about what I say.
Right.
Yeah.
And the rest.
Yeah,
is-
isn't it funny when you first start, you're like, oh, what is my look going to be? Because
Right.
again, I started in 89.
Your stage persona.
Yeah, and
Who's
it
my
was
stage
like, at
persona
that
gonna be?
point, Seinfeld was getting big, and so everyone was wearing, jeans, a tucked-in T-shirt, and a sports jacket, And I look back
Right.
at some of my headshots, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
I got
But-
to open for him in like 1987 at the Worcester Centrum.
Really?
No, was it the Worcester? Yeah, I think
yeah,
it
was
was.
the Worcester Centrum at the time. Yeah, now it's the DCU Center.
Yes. And BCN was looking for an opener, and they asked me
Wow.
And I did 15 minutes. His show had just started.
Yep.
His, you know, he
The
had a
TV show.
He had a TV show. For
Oh
a
yeah, I
while.
think I heard of that. Right?
I don't think I've seen it.
No.
I don't think I've
Oh,
seen it. I don't own the box set. I haven't seen every
Yeah,
episode
right.
at least 10 times each or anything.
Oh my God.
I don't know, Jerry.
That was a thrill.
Wow. So you took but what made you want to do comedy in the first place? Like, what made you say, you know what, I'm going to go take a class? Did people tell you were funny, or
What made you say I want to stand on a stage by myself in front of strangers trying to make them laugh?
Yeah.
The hardest thing in the world to do.
I have no idea.
Really?
No, I do. I was gonna swear. Am I allowed to swear? Or
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
this is an explicit podcast.
So, you know, I'd always done musical theater.
Okay.
Growing up, I was Eliza in My Fair Lady, and to date, it was probably the best thing. Like, it was great.
Yeah.
And so I'm still riding high from that.
That's still your credit when you go on
It
stage.
You may have seen her as Eliza.
As Eliza.
Dorothy at Roslyn. No, she was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I didn't.
in the middle
But-
school play.
I know, but and then I had done a few theatrical plays in college, and I had all the funny lines. So I'd always been kind of a ham. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I was 7, trying to make everybody laugh at Thanksgiving, and
yeah.
I was 7, and I put on a tutu. And I made one of my socks higher and I pushed the other one down, thinking that asymmetry was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it got me laugh.
I was going to say, because it was.
Right, of course.
But then I guess my high school and college years, I got very depressed and very depressive. And I studied philosophy and I chain smoked and I was going to be a therapist, you know, because those who
Yeah.
can't do.
Yeah, right. Become therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not project my depression onto someone else?
I'm just going to pass this off.
Yeah.
And then I was doing psych research, thinking I was going to get a good credit and apply to graduate school.
Yep.
And I took the mail in from the wrong apartment building. And in it was the course catalog for the Cambridge
stand-up?
Center for Adult Education. And I took an acting class first.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't tell this part of the story because it doesn't seem interesting, but I took an acting class. And then during the break of the first class, the teacher quit.
Oh my
During the
God.
break. And so they said, just take another class instead of
this.
your money. So I'm reading more of the course catalog and I see how to be a stand-up comedian. And you guys, I don't know if you felt this way when you found stand-up comedy, but I heard the angels. They were like,
Yeah.
"Oh." And it really was visceral. Like, I'm like, yeah. And I remember having seen Phyllis Diller on a talk show like Mike Douglas or Merv Griffin when I was 11. And she was saying, you have to make the audience laugh. And then when they think they're done laughing, then you have to hit them again. And I
Yep.
thought, I know what you mean, lady.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Because
it's
you
always
knew.
been in me. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of innate into
Well,
your character.
you knew that not only was the tutu funny, but the uneven socks was the next hit.
exactly. And that's why I say I know I sucked for so many times, but I just knew that I should keep going. And
Well,
I
that-
did quit a couple of times.
And I've said it a lot, Wendy, that, you know, we've all seen it. People that try it and then they fall away and they don't do it anymore. And then there are those that we've started with that are still doing it to this day. And the difference is that feeling that we don't care when we do we have a great set. Awesome. Can't wait to do it
Right.
again. We have a bad set. We got to do it again. It doesn't matter what the set is. We just got to get back on that stage again. Sometimes when you have the bad set, you want to get back on stage even more than when you've had a good set, because you want to kind of prove to yourself that was a fluke. I know I'm supposed to do this.
I know I can do
I got to
this.
get up there and do it.
Right.
Those other people, seems like it was more of a bucket list thing. They did it. Okay, I made some people laugh. I can move on. I can do something else.
Right.
But real comedians. Right,
Yeah.
right. But real comedians are people that we need to get up on that stage. We need to get back up there and do that no matter what.
Like, I've often wondered why I wasn't just a really funny advertising executive or
Exactly.
the most hilarious kindergarten teacher. Like, I go, why
Exactly.
do this? And that's when I'm on stage.
In the middle of doing your act, that's what you're thinking of.
I could have had benefits and health insurance.
I went to college for accounting. Why am I up here right now?
It is addictive.
It is.
It is, and that doesn't go away. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, like all the times I've thought of not doing it. I don't know if you guys know, but I was hit by a car a couple of years ago and I had to stop doing it because my leg was broken and both my feet were broken.
That'll tend to slow you down a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I said that'll slow you down a little bit.
I literally couldn't stand up.
Oh.
Wow.
So, and that's ironic because that was my job. And I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe I just won't do this when I get better. But here I am again.
Isn't it amazing? So we've talked about it during COVID. It shut down everything for a while, and people were doing Zoom shows, which were horrible. At least I felt they were. We've talked about it. But Scott said to me towards the end of COVID, he looked at me one night and he said, I don't know if I want to go back to performing. I don't know. I could, I'll produce shows, I'll run shows, because he produces some theater shows. I'll do that, but I don't know if I need to get up on stage anymore. We did one show together up in New Hampshire. It was the scariest friggin' show because both of us hadn't done it in like 4 or 5 months. It was an outdoor show, so that's why it was so early on. And I looked at him in absolute fear and said, literally 5 minutes before we were going on, I'm like, what do I end on? I don't know. And he goes, we both stared at each other for what seemed like 4 minutes, but it was probably 10 seconds.
10 to 20 seconds.
And then he reminded me, and I was like, oh, that's right. And then they called him up because he was featuring. He goes up, and as he's going up, he goes, what do I open with?
Oh my God, that's
because I was just, your head's spinning because you haven't done this in so long.
But once he got done with that, he's like, I don't know how the fuck I ever said I wasn't going to go back up. I can't not do this.
I was all in once again the second I got on that stage.
And I can imagine, how long were you laid up after the car accident? How long did it take to heal?
So I healed in 9 months, but because my leg had been, they put a rod in my leg, and not to gross anybody out, but the rod was rotated. So my knees were parallel, but my left foot was out like a duck. And
they gave you a club foot.
No, they made me look like a ballerina.
They put a bent rod in.
Yeah, right.
So they had to re-break the leg.
Oh, Jesus.
Rotate it back.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So I was out for 14 months and in total. And then I got to perform 2 shows live. And then the pandemic hit.
Oh my God.
Right. This was right before the pandemic. Right.
So I did a lot of Zoom shows and I actually liked them a lot because I'm older than you guys, and I love having the words on the screen above me.
See, none of ours had the words, but see, I think because your style is different too, where you are, I've always said you are the master at diversion. Or the bait and switch, or like the Tom Cotter style, or Don Gavin, where you say something, you think you're going to go here, and then you take it in a completely different direction. I guess it's misdirection, but that probably works better on Zoom. I'm more of a storyteller, so
and you also you act act out a lot of your jokes.
Yeah, so for me to act stuff out and be animated.
He's very physical and animated when he performs. So that doesn't always translate to Zoom, because Zoom is more about the words and the storytelling. Because some of the people we've talked to did well with the Zooms, and they adapted to them and they did fine. And other people, I think it depends on your style and what you do.
Like Jimmy Brogan, who was Jay Leno's head writer. He only talks to the audience.
Right,
So
it's all crowd work.
Not
right.
You in the top left corner. What do you do for a living?
I would talk to people though.
Yeah.
And I also like that, but I didn't want to put them on the spot either. So it's not my favorite thing to do, but I did one time, this group of women, like 30 women, asked me to do it again. It was like a benefit. And so they asked me to do it 2 times. And by the 3rd time, I said, I don't want to do this. I just want to lead like a comedy conversation, and you can chime in. And I loved doing that. I'm going to do another one for We Spark, which is a cancer center in LA. I'm gonna do a fun conversation. So it gave me another platform.
That's an awesome idea.
So my most fun show, there's a local comic up in Worcester, Mass. Now her name is Nikki Luparelli, and she, before COVID, started doing something called the Shit-Faced Comedy Show. And it was every comic that was on stage had to have a designated driver. And you would literally go up and you would have to blow into a breathalyzer and be over the legal limit to do your set. But you had a designated driver, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Well, then she tried to do it on Zoom and it just wasn't working. So we totally changed it up and ended up just playing games, like fun games, like drinking games or, whatever kind of games. And that actually went over better than us trying to do our material on Zoom. Just everyone getting drunk and playing games because everyone was sitting in their house anyway.
Or go ahead, Wendy. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, because what we do as comedians is bring a community of people together.
Exactly.
And so that's another thing you can do with a community of people. People like to feel part of something, which is why I always said, like, Paula Poundstone is brilliant because she can talk to the audience about anything and call back everything. And the audience loves to see that you're in the moment. You're not just reading your script.
Right.
That you are the funny one. You're not just delivering lines.
Right.
You are thinking on your feet.
Right. It's not scripted. Exactly. Like you just said.
You do that at Play It Again Sam's once in 1986, and it blew me away. Like, he was just extemporaneous. He was like improvising with the audience, and I, like, for years I just followed every word on my little piece of paper. I would never say anything other than what was written down. But
I think it depends. It depends on when you came up and what type of shows you did. So in Rhode Island in the 90s, a lot of bachelor parties would hire comics, and it taught me to shift and pivot from my material, because all of a sudden, my good Catholic boy material isn't really working with this crowd of guys who just want to see a stripper at the end of the night. And I'm not taking my clothes off again.
That's where Scott came in.
Yeah, exactly. Scott,
I would close out the show with a great.
Yeah, we can't.
They'd bring the pole in, the disco ball.
Can't even tell you what he did with a roll of nickels, but
it was fantastic.
But it was. I
made change.
You had to pivot to crowd work, and then you would do a little bit of crowd work and crap on the audience for a little bit, and then you could go back to your material. So I think it really depends on how you came up and what type of shows you worked on. Because
that's true.
Bachelor
and
parties.
I did like an MIT fraternity party in a basement when I was first coming up. Yeah, in Boston.
Wow.
We took every gig.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I had 2 first gigs. The very first gig was opening for Zito and Bean.
We're very good friends with Chris Zito.
Yeah.
Yes, and and the late
Oh my God.
Steve Bean.
Steve
Yes.
Bean. Yeah, we never got to meet him.
Yeah. I've told Chris that I don't know why he's not the biggest movie star. He's so adorable. But anyway.
We said the same thing to him.
Did
we
you?
were like, you're so cute. Why aren't you
I don't
in
know that we
movies?
said movie star, but we did say he was adorable.
Yes, we did say he was adorable.
Anyway, so I opened for them at the International Pub in Revere,
Oh my
and the
God.
producer Joe Amagrasso gave me 25 singles like I was a stripper.
Like you were a stripper.
And,
Did he give them to you one at a time, though?
yeah,
right.
he did. He stuffed them in my bra.
I was gonna say.
And then on the day that I'll tell you the second gig, but on the day that I was leaving Boston for LA, I ran into Joe Amagrasso, who I hadn't seen in like
Years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And I took that as a sign. I don't know what it meant.
That it was
But,
time to leave Boston and go to LA.
That you made the good choice to go to L.A.
Well, it was either LA or New York, and my parents live in New York, so I went to LA.
You wanted to get the hell away.
Yeah. But my second first gig, I say they're both my first gigs because it was like very exciting at the beginning, was opening for Dennis Leary.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
141 Main Street or something in Northampton, Massachusetts. It
Oh
was
my
like
God.
a 3-hour drive for me
Yes.
alone. And there were 7 people there, and I totally ate it, but he killed. And I just, like, I got to work with all these people.
Yeah.
In Boston, you mentioned them, David Cross and Mark Maron and
Yeah.
Laura Keitlinger.
Laura Keitlinger.
God, yeah.
I never got to work with her, but her and Judy Gold came down to Periwinkle's one night, and I went in because I wanted to meet them, and they were so nice. You know, they were so awesome.
Yeah. I got to work with Judy Gold twice. She was a sweetheart
Yeah.
and hilariously funny.
Oh my God. She and I should do a show called Twins. She's like 6'2". I'm like,
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
but yeah, we're really good friends.
That's awesome.
So you move out to L.A., and what did you start doing when you got out to L.A.?
When I moved out to LA, I started going on the road because
Because that's the only way to make money in LA, right?
Yeah, exactly.
when I was in Boston, I never went on the road. I had one road gig, and I had to take a week off from work, and I had to go to AAA to find my directions because we didn't
yeah.
Triptych.
us.
Yeah,
How to
where
get
they'd give you the flip map with the orange marker that went down. It's like
Hey, anybody under 30 right now is like, what the hell are they talking about?
But it was so funny because 30 of the 40 pages were just a single line because it was Route 95 going down. You know.
Well, just tell anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about. They are so lucky. Like I was always more nervous
About getting to the
fucking gig than
Yeah.
doing it.
yes.
Right.
So, actually, one night I was driving to New Hampshire, and I thought I had passed my exit, and I was by myself, and I was freaking out because it never dawned on me that the worst that would happen was the show would start late. Like,
Right.
because I wasn't there yet. I thought I would get in trouble.
Yeah.
But so my heart is racing, and I pull over to the side of the freeway, and I look down, and I swear to God, I swear on everybody I love's life that on the bottom of my shoe was a map of New Hampshire because they were made in New Hampshire. And so I literally
Really?
Yeah. I
The
pulled
sole of the shoe had a map of New Hampshire imprinted in it?
Yes. Like,
Oh my God.
I know. I swear.
That's
and
awesome.
I literally look down at my foot and I go, oh, I didn't pass my exit.
So if I put one finger on L2 and the other one
Yeah,
on my
right.
pinky toe,
Yeah, right.
I just got to go right here.
Yeah, right there. Well, listen, in all fairness, it's okay to freak out in New Hampshire and Maine and northern New England.
Oh,
because if you
I
miss
still
your
do.
exit, you're driving 25 fucking miles
To the
before
next
you get
one.
to the next one. So,
I know.
I
went
get it.
to a show in Orono, Maine with Nick
Orono.
DiPaola.
Oh my God.
Like the last gig I did. But so my first away gig that I had to take time off from work for, I was going to the Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, New Jersey.
Yep.
And
Still there.
I was opening for a comedian who had been doing comedy 5 months. I had been doing it 5 years.
Oh
but
my God.
he was amazing. His name is John Stewart.
Not familiar.
Yeah.
Not familiar.
I got to open for him.
Did he stay
once.
with it?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't
Holy
know.
shit.
That's how good he was that soon.
So I moved to LA and then I started going on the road and I auditioned for a lot of things, but I've been told many, many, many times that I'm not an actress. Like I had one acting teacher tell me that I'm so bad I shouldn't even do porn. And that,
She's doing material on us now.
I love that joke.
true. I figured out my porn name recently. You didn't know I was this dirty, right?
No.
Okay.
Keep going.
So your porn name is your first pet
And the street you lived
and
on.
the street you grew up on. So my porn name is, my mother didn't let us have a dog because she said we wouldn't clean up after it, Crescent.
Crescent.
Okay, never
So
mind.
that's your porn name. My
Okay,
mother
yeah.
wouldn't let us have a dog. Crescent.
All right, some of these don't work all
No.
the time.
They're working.
Really? Are you trying out your new stuff
It's
on
like a
us? How
Zoom.
about-
I know. Come on. How about
Right,
telling us
true.
about your exercise program? No. I just started running the other day. That's my favorite one.
Oh, I don't even do that anymore.
No.
No, you know
That's
what?
my favorite.
I didn't work out today, but I did wrestle with a fitted sheet. And at one point, he had me pinned to the mattress.
I like that one too.
So they
No,
say
I like
you're
that one.
supposed to mix up, you're supposed to confuse your muscles. Like that's what is good for your body.
Mhm.
Muscle confusion, they call it. My muscles are confused every time I work out.
What are we doing here? Right.
I'm telling jokes, but in reality, I did just start weightlifting. I mean, not like heavy, not like huge. This is not a joke.
See, now we're waiting for the punchline.
I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting there going, all right, here we go.
I promise. I literally started using 3 and 5 pounds, because I'm old and I have osteoporosis.
I love how you say you're old. You do realize you're only
You're
like
only 2 years older than us. Right.
Well, I should have said we're old.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yes,
better.
We're old.
Yes.
Yeah. Our muscles are just as confused. Trust me.
Well,
My muscles get confused when I walk.
Yeah.
do they?
Yeah.
You guys are so cute.
Oh, stop. Keep going. No. So you did road gigs when you got to LA. You did road gigs. Where were they? Were they like? Was it like Nevada and
I did a little
all
of
that.
everything.
Yeah.
Tahoe, Florida. I did one gig in Florida, Davies, Florida. And we were talking before about like bombing. A friend of mine from college lived there and she came to both shows back to back.
Mhm.
The earlier show couldn't have been better. The later show couldn't have been worse. And it was like, that's my life.
And
Yeah.
isn't it crazy how you could do the same material, the same night, two different
In the same
crowds,
building.
and have it be
Yep.
totally different? It
well, there are
is
so many
amazing.
variables. We just
Yeah.
can't control anything.
We
except
said it.
for
We
now.
said it. I purposely recorded a CD in Portland, Maine, because I didn't want to do local material. And when I'm in Rhode Island, I'm going to tend to do some local material. So I said I'm going to do it in Portland, Maine. They're great at the Comedy Connection in Portland. And I had 2 shows. I hired Bob Marley's sound guy. I was all set, ready to go. First show, 4 bachelorette parties, cocked out of their minds, yelling shit out the whole time. But they were a good audience. It was rowdy.
Little crazy.
Second show, everyone was smiling so much at me.
Which translates so well on a CD.
Translated horribly. I'm like, you guys remember when we made the announcement? We're recording a CD. It's not a DVD. They can't see your smiles.
The other night I was somewhere and they were snapping.
Snapping? Oh,
What
my
are you in a
God.
jazz club?
No, that's a whole millennial bullshit thing.
No, but remember
they don't
back in the
clap, they snap.
But that was in the 50s
I
jazz
know.
clubs. They used to
Yeah,
do
the
that.
beatniks used to
the
do it.
beatniks used to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
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 No,
and
these
they
were
all wore-
millennials. I was
Yeah.
actually at some. I have friends who are millennials, and I fell into their pool, and they didn't know what to do, so they put me in rice. That's a joke.
That's a great joke. That's a great joke. That's why she's Wendy Liebman. That's what I'm talking about.
That's one of those jokes when I hear it, I'm like, damn it, why didn't I think of that?
I wrote that. Exactly.
That is a great joke.
Well,
Especially because on my kitchen table right now
Is a bag of rice with a phone in it?
Yeah, is a bag of rice with somebody's electronic device in it. So
What's so funny is that's one of my newest jokes,
Really?
and I'm so excited to tell it.
that's a great
And-
joke.
It is a great joke.
My husband writes some jokes for me. He's the funniest person I know, but he's very shy. He would never want to go on
Really?
stage. Yeah. But I love telling newer jokes, and it's like, you still got it. Or my
Right.
husband still has it.
Yeah, you still have that
Yeah.
excitement when you do a new joke and it's working.
And it works. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, in LA, like you said, the porn thing didn't work out, the acting didn't work out. Did you do any writing gigs when you were out there?
I got a writing job for Howie Mandel had a summer variety show, and I
Okay.
was one of the writers, and that's been my only writing gig.
Did
Okay.
you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
This is what I want to tell your audience. I've been doing this since 1985. I'm not good at math, so however long that is, I'm just coming into my own now.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like I'm just getting it,
You feel like you're getting it and it's hitting.
and I want to be there. And
That's awesome.
don't give
No.
up.
I think that's a
You-
good thing, though.
But now you mentioned the car accident and everything, and then so the AGT was after that, right?
No, there were
Oh, it
two
was-
accidents.
Oh,
So you
Oh
did
my
your
God.
homework, but that was the second accident. I'm such a klutz. But
yeah, but you're so lucky that you're still sitting here if you've
I'm
had
so
two major
lucky.
accidents like
I'm
that.
so lucky. Don't spend any time with me. Actually, there were three accidents.
Oh
The
my
first,
God.
I fell off my bicycle head first and fractured my pelvis. That was 16 years ago.
Oh, my God.
I know. My second accident, my husband and I were driving late at night, and we were at a stoplight with 6 other cars, and another car came zooming up behind us going 92, and he caused a 6-car
A 6-car pileup.
accident.
Oh my
92
God.
miles an hour.
92,
Oh, my God.
and we weren't hurt. Our car was totaled, but the woman to my right died.
Oh my
And
God.
so that was when I decided I need to get back out there. I had taken some time off to help
Right.
raise my kids. I never stopped, but
Yeah.
I didn't want
Just
to go on the road as
Pulled
much.
back a little
Right,
bit. Yeah.
right.
And so that's when I did AGT, but also because I had seen Tom Cotter the year before, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, we've performed together in New Hampshire. Actually,
Right, right.
I can audition for that. So I
Yeah.
did that, and then my being hit by the car walking across the street was in 2018.
So that was after AGT.
Yeah, and I was
Oh my
just
God.
supposed to, like the next month, I was booked to open for Bill Maher in Hawaii over New Year's. So I had to cancel that. But he invited me back this year. So I'm
Oh,
doing
awesome.
that. So
Awesome.
anybody
In
Once-
Hawaii.
who's in Hawaii,
Yeah.
2 nights at the end of the year.
Oh, that's
Don't ask me
awesome.
which island because I always get them mixed up. I think it's Oahu and Honolulu, or Maui. I don't know. I mixed them up. I
There's
don't
like 5 or 7 of them.
I
I've never
know.
been there,
Not
unfortunately.
Hawaii.
A friend of ours who actually was the second owner of the Comedy Connection in
Providence.
Rhode Island now lives in Hawaii. And
Who is
actually,
it? Is it Oliver?
No.
After
Oliver owned the one in Portland, Maine. This was the guy named Eric Hoffer, who
He
lives,
bought it from Bill Blumenreich.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's out in Hawaii now, and he's trying to book like some comedy, but not in like theaters or anything, just in like small little places. But yeah, no, we'll have to reach out to Eric and let him know that you're going to be
I've
out there.
performed
That'd
a
be
couple
awesome.
of times in Hawaii, and I love it so much. And then somebody sent me a picture of the ocean, and then Hawaii's like this dot or little dots.
Yes.
And now I'm a little scared.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know the feeling. I flew to Sydney, Australia once, and that was scary because you go from LA to Sydney, and it was a 16-hour flight. And so you would literally like have a few drinks, fall asleep for a few hours, wake up, look at the GPS. You still all you saw was blue. Everyone, you got excited when you woke up and you were like, "Oh, there's Hawaii!" And then you knew, all right, we're only not even halfway there. It was.
I don't know
that
if
wasn't
I could
fun.
do that.
Hawaii, I think, is only five hours from
5 or 6 hours from LA.
though.
Yeah.
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 So you'll do all right.
Yeah.
You'll be good.
But you just, when you look at a map and you see this tiny spot and you go, they're going to land a plane on that.
On
They're going to
that?
be able to find
Yeah,
it
right.
and land a plane.
I know.
It's so
on
funny.
that.
Like I used to, the first time I was in Hawaii, I thought, oh my God, I feel like I've been here before. Like I got this psychic sense. I knew where things were. And then I remembered I grew up watching Hawaii Five-0. So I had seen all of the places.
The places, yeah, right. Oh, I recognize that place.
Well, I always recognize it from the Brady Bunch episode when they went to
Yes,
Hawaii.
yeah, that's
And
how
Gre-
I reckon. I
and-
know that beach.
And Greg kept falling off the surfboard,
Yeah,
and
well,
he had the idol.
he had the idol.
That's a whole nother episode we're going to get
Exactly.
into sometime. But
Exactly. So when you were on AGT, who were the judges? Had Simon Cowell come on by then?
No, it was.
Oh, all right.
It was Howie Mandel, so he wasn't allowed to judge me because he knew me.
Because
already.
he knew you, right?
It was Heidi Klum,
Mel B.
Mel B,
Mm-hmm.
and Howard Stern.
Oh, Stern was okay.
And this is show business that they made it seem like Howard and I knew like he loved me on the
Mhm.
show. I never met him,
Oh, really?
but
Okay.
I mean, it made it seem like,
Right.
I mean, that was
Well, the reason-
eye-opening.
The reason why I asked was because I know when Piers Morgan was on it and when now that Simon Cowell are on it, for some reason
they don't seem to be fans of comedians.
British people, well, I shouldn't say all British people, but people like them don't appreciate American comedy. Like Tom Carter did very well because Howard Stern was on. I have not seen a comic do well since Piers Morgan and now Simon
Well, Pierce
Cowell
was
have
on
been
Before
right.
Howard.
But
And
comics
Tom
didn't
even
do
said
well
it
then.
when we've talked to him that the reason he decided to go on when he did is because Howard had
Howard
come on
was- right.
and Pierce Morgan had left. So he said, okay, this is a good time to approach this. So, do you think that, well, I assume you're going to ask that question.
Well, I was just wondering because that's why I asked who was on, because you made it to the semifinals, and then who won that year? Please don't say it was a dog act, because that would send a magician.
A
Okay.
magician named Matt Franco.
Oh, Matt, yeah, who is from Rhode Island?
Yeah, he's from Rhode Island.
Yeah, he's a Rhode Island guy. Yeah,
He is mind blowing.
yeah, he is amazing. Matt is amazing.
And we got along so well.
Yeah.
And I also met Rachel Butera, who is a phenomenal impressionist. And
Yes.
she's on the Howard Stern show a lot.
I've heard her on there. Yeah.
And my takeaways from that show were my friendships mostly.
Yeah.
I made friends with this quartet named the Sons of Serendip, who I think they met at BU.
Oh, really?
They are the most beautiful musicians ever. I just said it out loud.
Yeah. So, the experience was still positive, even if you don't win. I get it. You make friends on that show. And that's a tough thing, too, because you're not competing against, it's not like Last Comic Standing where everyone is a comic. You're competing against different types of acts and
dancers.
And all different types of acts that would do well in Vegas. So like Matt Franco, is doing great in Vegas, and so would you, or so would the quartet. It's a hard type of show.
I do think I shouldn't have won because
really,
it doesn't matter what I think. It just was the right thing that Matt won, and he has his own showroom at the Lynx in Vegas, and that's where he should be. I don't know. I'm sounding like a fatalist, but I feel like life is like Plinko, that game that they play on.
You just never know how it's going to hit, right? It's a game of chance, right?
Yeah, The Price is Right. Is that the name of the show?
Yeah.
Price
is Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not the little yodeling guy.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I don't know that one.
That's totally.
That's on The Price is Right too.
That's on The Price is Right. It's you guess the price, and by however many cents that you're off on the price, this little yodeling guy goes up a mountain, and if it goes too far, he falls off. So you're dead.
It's a horrible
So at least
game.
you're not the yodeling guy who dies by going off the front of the mountain.
What will they think of next?
Yeah, exactly. No. So, we've already talked. We usually ask our guests about wow moments and stuff. Working with Jon Stewart, honestly, a wow moment for anyone would be working with Wendy Liebman, and I'm not just blowing smoke. Honestly, we were so excited.
This is a wow moment for us on the podcast.
This is
it really is.
Exactly.
It really is.
So we like to ask people, but if there are any other moments for you, between AGT or any of it,
or even better, what was that first moment as a comedian that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm working with this person, or I'm working in this place, or that moment that kind of took your breath away, that first time that you were like, wow, this is it. This is what I've been working for, and I'm finally here.
And don't say Zito and Bean, because as much as we love Chris Zito,
I can't handle Chris's head.
Yeah, that's not a career highlight. Yeah. Chris got very pissed at us because during his episode when he was on, we talked about Frank Santarelli so much that he said, if you guys talk about Frank Santarelli one more time, I'm walking off this show. We love Chris. We love Chris.
I got to open for Bob Hope.
Oh, really?
No way.
In the mid 90s in Indianapolis, in a theater outside, and an audience of 5,000. And that was that moment.
Oh my God.
I had so many moments you guys.
I just got goosebumps from that. That's that guy's you talk about legends. That's a legend of legends.
Right.
I know. And I have since met Gene Parrott, who was his head writer.
Right.
Yeah.
And
a lot of books about writing stand-up.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
He's become a friend. And the other was it was in front of 8 people in a basement in Dearborn, Michigan, at an Italian restaurant called Joey's. And I think part of why it was so exciting was I didn't know if I could do it. I made these 8 people laugh for 40 minutes, and I did buy everybody a drink. But
that helps.
There were callbacks, and it was like a real community by the end. And so that was really thrilling to me.
Yeah, those are the kind of shows where you don't know how it's going to go. I did it. We've talked about it before. I did a show in North Andover, Mass, with, I don't know if you remember Bob Seibel.
Of course.
It was me, Bob Seibel. I don't remember who opened, but I mean, there were 5 people in the whole
I was
room.
opening. So
No, you would not be opening with me featuring. But Bob, by the end of the night, we were just literally sitting around the table with the microphone, just talking to these 5 people, but making them laugh with our act. And it was such a special show, not only because, rest in peace, Bob, because I loved Bob and working with him, but because when you're a newer comic, and I had probably been maybe 10 years in, and I'm featuring, and I look, and I'm like, when we're in the middle of a snowstorm, and the booker said it. Look, we can cancel the show and you don't get paid, or you can go out and do a show for 5 people and you're going to get paid. And I'm like, well, let's do it. I mean, we might as well,
right.
And to sit there and really be that afraid of how am I going to make 5 people laugh in this big room, and then to really make them laugh and make them forget about the snowstorm outside. And we all forgot about the snowstorm outside. Right. It's one of the best feelings in the world, right?
Well, Wendy, you used a great word. You make them. It's a community at the end of it. You're all friends. It's all one group. It's not you performing, them watching. It's one group now. By the end of it, when you have a situation like that,
exactly.
When you've been doing this for a while, I think we've all had a moment like that where it's a small crowd and you end up coming off the stage and engaging with them directly, and you become like just a group.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go bowling.
Yeah, exactly.
If the snowstorm wasn't going on, we probably all would have gone bowling in Revere somewhere.
We end up in the hot tub at their house. If I had $1 every time that happened.
That's actually happened a few times out in Western Mass, but no. So it's funny because we do have some comments that came in, and I just want to ask you. So one of our listeners or watchers, Chris, said, Wendy, did you ever do any shows in Newport, Rhode Island?
In Newport, Rhode Island.
There used to be a place either called the Sandbar or the Sandbagger or the Windjammer or something. Barry Katz used to book it, and it was right on the Rotary in Newport. I can't remember. I wonder if you did that.
Is Chris saying that because he thinks he saw me?
I don't know. Chris Brandriff.
Oh, Chris is a member of the Bradley Playhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought the name sounded familiar.
I feel like I did. I stayed at the Von Bulow's house.
Did you really?
Didn't get a lot of sleep that night.
Yeah, right.
Slept with one eye open that night.
Yeah.
I think
Sugar cubes and insulin for everyone.
Hey.
Ask Chris if he thinks he remembers seeing me. I think I did a show there with a comedian named Bill Kelly in 1988.
I don't remember Bill Kelly.
She might remember that.
He was from New York.
Oh, okay.
And he was just there.
Because I was thinking of Bill Campbell from Boston.
Oh, he was great.
But yeah, we've had him on as well. Chris just said yes. It was at one of the hotels in the harbor. Yes.
I feel like
I don't know what that means.
Did.
Maybe. Yeah, that might have been.
Ask him if I was funny.
What? All right. You heard her, Chris. Right out. All she wants to know is was she was funny. She doesn't give a shit about where it was. Was she funny? I'm sure you were.
Chris,
wait a minute.
Chris and her husband Bob do a lot of performing, and they're huge comedy fans, so they've probably seen you a few times.
It's funny. I was thinking Chris was a guy.
No, I thought so too, but I couldn't tell because their profile picture is so far away. All right, I have a question though. Can you just tell me, have you been running lately? It's my favorite joke. You got to do it. You tried out all those other jokes. I want to hear it.
Ace.
What are we, morning zoo radio?
I know.
It's 10 past the hour, weather traffic coming up. We're on the radio with Wendy Liebman. Wendy, you been running lately?
No.
What the hell?
She said no.
Thank you. I don't want to be whacker. What the hell?
I'm done.
I go running when I have to. Like if the ice cream truck is going 60.
That's my favorite joke. I just took up running the other day. I was running the other day and
My
trying to
favorite
catch
joke
the
is
ice
a
cream
joke
joke.
that doesn't get a laugh usually.
Really? What is it?
I have favorite jokes that don't get a laugh. One is I walk my dogs, but only after I pitch them 4 balls. And I knew that wasn't going
I
to get
got
a
it.
laugh
No, I got
because-
it. It took a second. 'cause
No,
I'm-
there was a delay.
yeah.
The audio
the
paused
audio
for a second.
paused. No, I
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
It
But-
did. Swear to God.
That doesn't get a laugh because I know it doesn't always, because one time I was practicing that joke and Siri said, I didn't get that.
Listen,
my other
you come
favorite
from
joke-
Boston. You know that joke would kill in Boston.
Oh my God. My other favorite joke that doesn't get a laugh is that ever wake up and not know where you are? That happened to me recently. I didn't know where I was, but I knew I wasn't at home because somebody was vacuuming.
All right. Now,
All right.
speaking of home, I want to be respectful of your time too, and we really appreciate you being on. But you mentioned your husband, and I wanted to
Yes,
talk a little bit about your husband's family because I am a huge animation fan because I do voices and impressions in my act. So I love cartoons and all that stuff.
And Ace has a children's book coming out.
And I have a children's book coming out in a couple of months. I'm very excited about, but it's not about me, Scott. But yes, thank you.
Little plug-ola.
Maddie,
Yeah, plug it.
Maddie loses a tooth. Will be out around Christmas time. But no, your husband comes from like Disney royalty, right?
So my husband, he's the funniest person I know. Like he sexted me recently, sent me a picture to turn me on. It was a picture of him emptying the dishwasher. But he is the funniest person I know. And he was a writer, producer on the show Boy Meets World, if you know.
Oh my
that
God.
show. And one day he came home from school when he was 7. And his dad said, what did you do today? And he said, they gave me the vaccine for polio.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad said, you let them give you a shot at school? And he said, no. They put the medicine on a sugar cube and they put the sugar cube on a spoon and then we ate the sugar. And my father-in-law thinks for a minute and he wrote this song, Spoonful of Sugar Helps the Medicine Go Down. Which
Isn't that
is
amazing?
one of the songs from Mary Poppins.
That's a true story.
Because he and his brother, Robert and Richard Sherman, wrote
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the music for Disney, including Mary Poppins and Jungle Book and the song It's a Small World. And then
Well, they did that movie with Tom Hanks with the two of them writing all the music and everything.
Yes.
BJ Novak, whose dad
Yes.
is a Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
BJ played my father-in-law, which
Oh
is
my
Wow.
God.
Isn't that cool?
real.
I told you I do research for this show.
You really did
I
this
got
time.
so excited when I saw that because not only have I seen the Tom Hanks movie, but I have Disney Plus, so I watch a lot of documentaries, and especially when a documentary is about animation or anything about the heyday of Disney. And when I read in the bio that your husband was one of the Sherman Brothers' sons, I was like, oh my God, I really need to ask her about this. So, but I didn't know that Spoonful of Sugar was based on your husband getting the polio vaccine. That's amazing.
Yes. And when they were trying to get people to take the COVID vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
they did a story on my husband talking about
Really?
polio vaccine on CNN.
Wow.
But my husband also, along with his cousin, did a documentary about their fathers, Robert and Richard Sherman, called The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story.
I think I saw that.
Which is also on Disney Plus, and it's
Yes.
phenomenal because all of their music.
Yeah.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. The
Exactly.
song, You're Sweet 16, or You're 16, You're Beautiful in Your Mind.
Yeah.
But you don't know these guys, and the story is the brothers didn't really get along. but they worked together for 50 years. So, I mean, can you imagine working with your sibling for 50 years and not liking
Wow.
or not getting along?
Or not getting along, right.
I can imagine that.
No.
I just haven't had to work with my sister. But I
No.
can't imagine not liking her for 50 years.
But they say it all the time. Look at some of the best music from some bands were in the most tumultuous
Yes,
times of their careers.
absolutely.
Because that creative tension just
Right.
elevated everyone.
Well,
so
and
it makes sense.
And sometimes comedians, I can't speak for all of them, but sometimes I've had my best sets when I'm not in a happy headspace
yeah.
before I go on stage. When I've been aggravated all day long and I walk out there and I'm getting that frustration out while I'm on stage, I sometimes have my best sets when I'm in that kind of aggravated mindset.
And sometimes
I
some
actually-
joke comes out of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I actually used to ask my mother to call me right before every show.
Mom, I really need to kill tonight. Can you aggravate the shit out of me 5 minutes before I go on
Yeah,
stage?
see, my mother has dementia. She forgets what day to call me, so it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Honey, I called to aggravate you.
Actually, tonight's my mother's birthday, but I'll just go over tomorrow and tell her tomorrow's her birthday. She won't know.
There you go.
Anyway, so that's
Whatever
fine.
works.
It's fine.
No,
I'm just going to rewrap the present I gave her last year. So
No, that is awesome. I really wanted to get to that before.
that's
we
very
left-
cool.
before we-
That's a great
That's
story.
Yeah.
awesome.
And like when I first heard that my husband was related to the guys who wrote Hushabye Mountain, I thought to myself, wait, aren't those guys English and aren't they dead for 100 years?
right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Because
But
it's such
they're not.
it's
They
such
were
a
from
classic
Brooklyn.
sounding song.
Oh.
Yeah, two guys from Brooklyn,
When I-
right?
When I was a kid, I was so proud that I could sing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Now, did
I
they
know.
write that too?
Yeah, that's part of Mary Poppins.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
So they wrote all the songs for Mary
Yeah.
Poppins.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my father-in-law is no longer with us, but my uncle Richard Sherman is still with us.
Oh,
And
really?
He's like 94 now. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing man. What
That's
amazing. Both of
awesome.
them.
But here's
Just
the
amazing.
thing. I think music is genetic because my husband, his
I was just gonna ask
siblings,
that.
Is he
they're all
like that?
musical, and my husband's sons, my stepsons, are both phenomenal musicians. So
Really?
like either they've been exposed to it or it's in the genes or
In
both.
the genes.
Probably
Yeah.
both. And I
Well,
love to sing, so
It's got to start somewhere, the whole chicken and the egg thing, because I will say this. All three of my kids, they're all adults now, were all musicians all through school and everything. And my oldest actually went to college for musical performance and jazz studies and still play. She's going to be 30 next May, and she still plays and she teaches jazz and everything like that. So she's an amazing saxophone player, but she can also play stringed instruments, piano, all kinds of stuff like that. I play nothing. My wife plays nothing. Her parents, my parents, nothing. So I don't know where it came from, but if that's what you're saying is true, that gene pool starts with my kids and then it'll go forward. But
are you
it did-
sure that they're yours?
at this point, I don't care. I'm not paying for them anymore. So
Yeah, right.
it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm musical. My ex-wife is not musical, but my two oldest kids out of my three are very musical. My oldest daughter played keyboard. She played recorder. She's got an ear for music. My son was the same way, played saxophone in high school and middle school and could play by ear just the same way I played trumpet.
I mean, I had a huge love of music and I was a huge jazz fan. So my daughter has always said that her love of jazz came from, she was 2 and 3 years old. We have home videos of me playing old jazz records, actual vinyl records in the living room, and her listening to it and trying to play like on a harmonica along with it and stuff like that. Because I would play that stuff all the time because I love
You just couldn't
that type of music, but
personally
I
play
couldn't
it.
play anything.
Yeah.
You know, I
I
just
have
love
perfect
that kind of
pitch.
music.
I have
Do you?
perfect pitch when it comes to singing commercials. Birds flying high. I don't know if you have that commercial.
No, but we do have
oh,
I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too?
We actually had him on last year.
David Naughton. We had him on last year.
You did? How long
Yeah.
have you been at this, you guys?
5 years. We've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And little by little, we're building. We're two unknown guys who do a podcast out of my basement every week. But you know what? We love doing it. We love talking to people. We love learning people's stories. And when Scott started the podcast, that's exactly what it was like. He said, I love watching James Lipton and inside the actor studio. I'd love to do that for comics and learn all about them and how they started. And that's
and you mentioned it earlier when you talked about the Zoom shows and kind of the comedy conversation. That's what the concept of this was, is for us to talk about what it takes to why did you want to do this? What it takes to get to the point where you're at. Sometimes we talk about writing. So we never know where the conversation is going to go, but it's the behind the scenes stuff, because people see you on stage, they see how funny you are, they see the jokes, but they don't see all the work that it took to get to that point. You perform for 45 minutes a week, sometimes several shows a week. And people would say that to me, oh, comedy, you work what, an hour a week? No, I've worked hours and hours and hours of writing and honing and doing this and doing that. And that's kind of what this is, the peek behind the curtain of what it takes to get to that point. And that's the stories I love to hear, and I love to talk to creative people like yourself, people that I respect and people that I love their material, to hear how they got to the point where they're at.
Right.
And when you talk about trying new jokes, even at this point in your career, somebody who's successful as you are, that you still have that. I love when I try out a new joke.
You
and
get
it
excited
works and
about
you get
it.
excited. I love that you still have that fire inside of you, that it's still there. That's such an awesome thing.
Because I need to keep being humbled.
No, and and that's part of it. You're right, because the people that get to a point where they're just kind of mailing it in and they're not being creative and they're not pushing themselves and not trying to renew things and everything like that, it's fine. Yeah. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But you got to constantly try to grow yourself and try to do some more and try to do something different. And over the summer, Ace and I were pushing each other, which was great to have a friend to do that. We went to some open mics and we were like, all right, you can't do any of your old stuff. You got to do something new tonight. And we would push each other to try to do new stuff. And it was so much fun to go and just kind of explore and kind of see what we could do.
We went to
having a friend. My favorite comedian, you guys, is a Boston comic. He's been out here now, but his name is Brian Kiley.
Oh,
yes.
We had him on. I've known Brian for years. Brilliant writer, excellent comedian.
He's just
phenomenal,
so good, and such a nice, great guy.
Sweetheart of a human being.
Hilarious.
And I love now, like, all of his posts are about his son and his
baseball.
Pitching. Yeah, his baseball.
His baseball.
I love watching those.
Now he's in law school. The son.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But he was playing in the minors, I think.
Yes.
Well, listen, I mean, it'll only be a matter of time before he drops out of law school and goes into comedy. I mean, how many people do we know like that? Paul Mercurio,
Paul D'Angelo.
There's plenty of lawyers that dropped out of law school.
Greg
Giraldo. Yeah.
Same thing. I know. So let me ask you this, because we usually end the podcast with this, and we've talked about high points and joke writing and stuff, but we always ask our guests, and if you've been doing comedy any more than 6 months, you have at least one of these stories, and it's the funny bad gig story. These are the gigs that were so bad that the night of, you were like, I don't know if this is right for me, or
maybe I'll join the Sherman Brothers and be their secretary or something. Because, or I always say maybe Enterprise is hiring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the further away you get from it, you're in the green room with other comics, and everyone's telling like, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe this bad gig I did."
This is your war story,
and then you're like, "Oh, you think that's bad? Listen to this." And so that's what we're looking for.
I have 3.
Of course. Listen, when I came on the show as a guest,
He had 5.
5 years ago, I was like, all right, can I tell 3? I have 3. So
But
tell
they're
as many as you
they're
want.
not all like career-ending nights.
No.
That's just
Nobody's
one
is.
stuck
But they're,
out.
yeah, but to you, when you look back on them, they're like, this was so bad, it's funny.
And the other thing that's great about these, Wendy, is it's an example to people of the crazy situations people put comedians in,
That's it.
thinking stand-up will work in
Right.
this scenario or this place or
So
this.
we to
type
give a
of
little
thing.
background, we actually did a show about 3 or 4 years ago where we had a panel of comics and we said, let's come up with like a top 10 list of horrible situations, like it's going to be a bad gig when. And we ended up, we couldn't even narrow it down to 10. We had,
top
12 different things. And
I really want to see that list.
we'll definitely send it to you because
Ace will message it to you.
I'll
we have
message
it.
it to you. We have it because we eventually want to write a book where we organize all of these bad gig stories into chapters.
And the
of
chapters will be these 12 things.
these 12 things, and then we're going to have other chapters because other things have come up since.
we
But-
can expand that list.
Yeah,
we definitely can expand
But like
that list.
examples are like, the audience doesn't know it's a comedy show.
It's a surprise to the audience.
You know what I mean? Or you're in the sports bar during the Bruins playoffs, and the owner of the club says, "Oh, don't worry about that. We'll mute the TV.
We're going to leave the TVs on, but we're going to mute them.
Like just
No sound system.
Yeah, horrible situations that we've been put in.
I
But
just thought of 5 more.
Yeah, exactly.
isn't it crazy?
Exactly.
Right? So
But
go
I'm
ahead.
not
You
writing
tell
them
whoever
down,
you want.
so I might forget them.
Whatever.
That's fine.
Whatever you want to
Tell us whatever you want.
So, well, this happened after the show, just a kind of a funny story. I was in Alaska. I was there for 3 nights and 6 days. And I was with a comedian named Chuck Booms. And
Did you get that? 3 nights, 6 days?
I did.
okay,
I was too busy doing the math in my head, and I got confused.
Ron Mendoza was there too.
Oh,
And
wow.
This limo took us to a bar afterwards. And the limo driver, so this wasn't the gig at all. This was afterwards.
It was after.
The limo
Yeah.
driver
We've had a few of these.
came in with us and left his limo running. And when we came out, it was gone. So that was
I knew.
one
That's awesome.
memorable.
I knew that was going to be the case.
That's awesome.
Okay, when I first started performing, maybe this was in Newport Beach. When I first started performing, the Iraq War was that night. The Iraq War was
Yep.
starting.
So it was like, January of 91 or 92.
So maybe it was the Iran War. I don't know. It was before 91 because I had already gone. I mean, I was still in
So
Boston.
it was still East Coast.
1990 is when the original Iraq
all right.
started with
Yeah.
George Bush Sr.
Yep.
And so he came on and gave a speech. And
Yeah.
then I was performing at a naval base. So it was like,
Oh, it might have been the Newport Naval Base. Yeah.
Oh, the Officers Club in
Yeah.
Newport, right over the bridge.
Right.
They used to do events there all the time.
so that was like a hard sell.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, we're at war. Hey, let me make you laugh.
The U.S. just went to war. So, anybody go to a 7-Eleven today?
So one time I was performing in Florida, Sanibel Island, and
Yes.
they had lost my luggage. And weirdly, it was a carry-on. But no, they lost my luggage, and they said they were going to bring it to the hotel, but I was leaving in the morning. So I was like, no, don't bring it to the hotel. Okay. So I'm wearing the clothes that I'm wearing on the plane, but I have no makeup. And there was nothing open. It was like this resort town, and everything closed.
Yeah.
So I literally used like powdered donuts on my face.
Seriously?
I swear. And like I had a little melted chocolate and I'm trying to put it under my eye.
I got some Boston cream over here, some cinnamon on this cheek, powdered on this cheek.
I had to get creative,
Anybody got an apple spice?
Hey, are those jimmies on your face?
It's fall. I need some apple spice.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I know I said I have more, but this is the one that sticks with me the most. I was, and I've performed with a megaphone because they didn't have lights or sound. I did
Or a
that
megaphone.
at
Oh
a
my
temple.
God.
I'm like, I'm
A
glad I-
megaphone at a temple. Hold on.
Yeah.
We just got a whole new category.
Yes.
Megaphone at a temple?
We don't have a microphone, but we got a megaphone.
I mean, the weirdness was I was doing 2 shows at temples, and I don't necessarily do temple shows. It just happened like one week, and then the next week, both places had no electricity. And it was like, well, can you light a menorah?
And put a mirror behind it so it shines on me? Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I thought, thank God I didn't get my hair done because nobody could see it. It didn't.
Right.
Okay. So, but my weirdest road story is I had just started doing stand-up, and I was invited to perform in New York City at a place called the Paper Moon, which Eddie Brill, who went on to
Yes.
be the talent booker for Letterman.
Letterman, yeah.
We had Eddie on a couple of months.
Jimmy
We had Eddie
Tingle,
on
you did?
Yeah, we had him on a couple of months ago, and Paper Moon became the Boston Comedy Club, right?
Yes, I think
Yep.
so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what Eddie had
and you said Jimmy Tingle
and Jimmy
was on
Tingle.
as
We
well?
had Jimmy Tingle on
was
last
there.
year.
Jimmy's a great guy.
Sally Lapidus, who went on to be a huge writer, she was there. Cindy Freeman was there, and Rich Seisler was there. So,
Love Rich.
Love Rich.
Love Rich.
in peace,
I know,
Yes.
another
He's
guy. Oh.
Sweetheart of a man.
sweetheart. So, I'm coming back on the train, and I'm sitting with Cindy, and Rich is there. The 3 of us are traveling back together, and down the aisle on the train walk Zito and Bean. And Steve says to me, Wendy, do you want to come to the smoking car? Because I was a cigarette smoker at the time, and so was he. So we went into the smoking car. We smoked, and then we sort of fell asleep. And then when we woke up, we started walking back to our car, and we look out. You know how there's like a space between the cars?
Yeah.
So we look out the window, and all we see are tracks. There was no car. We were not attached
Behind you.
to the other car anymore.
What
Because
happened?
apparently in New Haven, they split. Like
Oh my
one
God.
train goes to New Haven and the other goes to Boston. And Steve goes, where's the fucking train? And
Oh my God. So Seisler and Zito are on the train going to Boston that got rehooked up, and you
And
guys
Cindy.
are going where?
and
Oh, and Cindy.
and I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't have my purse with me.
Because it
My
was
purse
back
was
at the
with
back
Cindy.
car, right?
So they think that we just jumped off the train, like got off.
Oh my God.
And so we had no money, no cell phones at the time. So
yeah,
No.
right.
we had to convince the train people what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And I just remember going back to New Haven, getting on the right train, coming home, and Cindy Freeman had lugged my fucking suitcase.
Your purse, your suitcase,
But-
your donuts for makeup.
Yeah. Her makeup case, which was made by Hostess.
Yeah.
So that
my
was
God.
probably my most memorable
That's
Oh, that's
awesome.
story.
It's
And
funny.
then
Those are
the cell
all
phone-
post. Those are all post-gig stories. That's what's funny.
But that's the shit that happens.
But that's the stuff that people don't understand that we go through just to get to a gig.
You know, you mentioned Rich Seisler, and if I can just tell, and I've told it here before, I one of my first full weekends working when I got my first paid weekend hosting was Rich Seisler. He was the headliner for the weekend. And we used to work Wednesday to Sunday, Connection in Providence. Wednesday night, I go in the green room. I'm like, Rich, what do you want for your introduction? He goes, let them know I'm going to be in this new movie called Friday Night Poker with Chevy Chase and Selma Hayek. I'm like, oh, awesome. Okay. So I go out and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, your headliner tonight, amazing headliner from the Boston area. He's going to be in the new movie Friday Night Poker with Chevy Chase and Selma Hayek. Let's hear it for Rich Seisler. Crowd goes crazy, goes up, kills, does a great job. That's Wednesday night. Thursday night, we're getting ready for the show. I go in, hey, Rich, you want me to mention Friday Night Poker again? He goes, no. I'm going to be in the movie Autumn Leaves with Abe Vigoda and he named somebody else, and I'm like, oh,
but it was always an old actor.
I go, you're in
young
two
actor.
movies? He goes, no, I make this shit up every night. He goes, I make up a movie title and then I pick an old actor and a young actor. And the whole weekend, we did 7 shows, 7 different movies with one old and one young actor. And after every show, as people leave in, they're like, when's that movie come out? And he goes, oh, it's coming out in the fall. And they're like, I'll totally look for that. That looked awesome. And I died laughing every night. And I instantly became friends with him because I was like, that is brilliant. That is so funny.
I don't think I ever saw Rich Seisler without a big smile on his face.
Oh.
He was just always
great.
And a couple of years ago, we actually had Paul Barkley on, who was one of the owners of the Comedy Connection, and who was very, very close with Rich, and actually was going out for Rich's wedding to the island where he ended up passing away from that weird bacterial thing. And we've talked about him so many times. Again, we want to do a whole episode just on Boston comics who have passed away that we looked up to.
Yeah, like Rich Seisler, Bob Seibel, Kevin Knox.
You know,
there's some amazing
Bob Lazarus.
Oh, Bob Lazarus, jeez.
Lauren Dombrowski.
Yes, I never got to work for Lauren. Who? Jennifer Hogue. I've heard of her, but again, I never got to work with her. And that's the thing. It's like there are so many people that went before us that honestly should have been household names. I mean, we've talked about how many Boston comics should have been household names. I mean, Don Gavin, Ken Rogerson, Lenny Clark is very well known, but I mean, I don't know if he's...
I don't know that he's a household name, but he's close.
And Steve Sweeney. Like, these are people that are just... And, Rogan has talked about it on his podcast. These guys are killers. But I think, and was it like this when you were coming up? I think what made Boston so tough to come up in is because we would do shows where the headliner was the host. So when we started, like, you would go up to the Comedy Connection in Faneuil Hall on a Monday night. Kevin Knox was hosting. He'd open that show and absolutely destroy the audience for 10 minutes and then bring up all the open micers. But he would do a great job because he's like, hey, this next guy, he's going to come up here. He's going to make you laugh. He would give you such a buildup, but you had to bring your A game in Boston.
Right.
Because the headliner just killed for 10 minutes and they're going to get up and kill at the end of the show for 30 minutes. You better be good and make yourself memorable on that show.
And that's another story I told. My first time on stage was at Kevin Knox's open mic night on Monday night, Faneuil Hall, and we drew numbers out of a hat, and I drew 1. And so I'm going on first, and Knox goes up for 15 minutes, and I literally thought about leaving. Yeah. In the middle of his opening set, I said, I'm just going to leave because I can't go up there now after watching this guy. He's brilliant. The crowd is falling out of their seats laughing. I can't go up and do my stupid shit that I wrote that I've never done before in front of these people after watching this guy. And luckily I did. And, but he then gets to the end of his set and he gave me such a great intro that he made the crowd like me before I even walked on stage. So it made it a little easier for me to transition in.
Exactly.
And I had a good 5-minute set for my first time that I ever went on stage. And
wow.
it was just phenomenal. It was just so phenomenal. And I'll never forget him for that. And I was so happy that I got to work with him several times. And one time I got to tell him that story and thank him for that. And I'm so happy I got to do that. Because that meant so much to me that night, because I literally stood up from the chair I was sitting in and I said to my buddy I was with, I said, yeah, I'm leaving. When they call my name, they're going to see nobody go up there because I'm leaving. And he goes,
I honestly can say that Boston comedy is head and shoulders the best.
Yeah.
It's different. It's very different.
It's different. But listen, Wendy, we want to be respectful of your time. We want to thank you so much for coming on. And
My pleasure.
We hope you had a good time. We had an awesome time.
I love talking to you.
And anytime you want to come back, we'd love to have you back on, and we'll talk about the other 5 gigs that were horrible for you. Just to open up those wounds and make you think, hey, maybe I should have been a therapist.
It's kind of like childbirth, even though I've never had a baby, but I've heard that you forget how bad it is. And
exactly. Yes.
So
Well, we'll have to send you the list of the top 12 things that we came up with.
Yeah,
and you might go, well, you guys
things.
forgot this or you forgot that, and we can add to it.
Yeah,
so.
we'll definitely
you have my
add
email.
to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's on my website.
Well, I was just going to say, what can we promote for you?
So I'm on Twitter.
Yes,
Wendy
that's how I
Liebman.
found you.
I have a website, wendyliebman.com, that I just started making look better and keeping up to date now. I'm going to be opening for Bill Maher in Hawaii over New Year's. So that's what I'm plugging.
That's great. So listen, folks, if you guys are in Hawaii on New Year's, because hey, listen, where's a better place to party on New Year's is Hawaii.
Definitely.
Go check out Wendy Liebman and Bill Maher. And Wendy again.
And Jeff Ross.
And I will definitely.
Oh, Jeff Ross, that's awesome.
Oh my God! I'll put links in the show notes for today to Wendy's stuff, so you guys can definitely check that out.
So again,
thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for being on. We really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Me.
Absolutely, anytime. All right, we'll let you go. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. I don't think I fanboyed out. I tried not to. Towards the end, I started to lose it a little bit.
I know. I tried not to, too, but
she's awesome.
I can't help it. She was so amazing, so giving. I mean, listen, honestly, when we get someone like that, I expect 45 minutes to an hour. The fact that she stayed on for an hour and a half with us and wasn't disengaged at any point. She was on with us. It was awesome.
What a career this woman has had. She has earned everything that she has done.
But absolutely underrated. She is one of the funniest comics out there. And I've said this before about people like Kathleen Madigan.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
And they are.
But I'm not saying one of the funniest female comics. I'm telling you one of the funniest comics.
Period.
Absolutely.
Period. No gender attached. Just funniest comedians out there.
And then now even more.
Dude, she did some of her jokes.
I know.
And they were as funny doing them here as you'd see them on stage.
I know. And then if they didn't work, she was like, I know that didn't work. I'm trying my jokes.
Dude, that's fucking bag of rice joke.
That is
I'm
such
still
a
laughing
great millennial
about it.
joke. Absolutely.
I am still laughing about
I
that.
know. This was amazing. This was an amazing episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it because we've been so looking forward to this. And this absolutely surpassed my expectations.
We've had some amazing moments on this podcast. A lot of them thanks to you because you've done a great job booking the podcast over the years. You had mentioned it earlier. You talk about Bobby Collins was a big one because we both got to open up for him back in the day. David Naughton, to me, to this day, that was so cool talking to him. Again, because
and you know what's funny?
Because of who he is and the fact that they were just such an awesome person.
But what's funny about him is even though we brought him on for Scottober and American Werewolf in London, I think we talked more about Hot Dog the movie.
Yes.
because it had so much to do with our puberty.
Yes.
You know,
but he was just so cool about it.
It was awesome.
And then, you talk about Jason Hawes last year and Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation. And I mean, we can list a bunch of people, but I don't know. I put her right up there.
Yeah.
With, I don't.
She was so sweet and so much fun. And it's so funny how I got to get her on. I reached out to her 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I asked her to be on, and I saw that she had seen it. But again, it was in the middle of the pandemic and blah, blah, blah.
Right. A lot of shit going on.
And a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. And then I don't know what happened. I happen to look at my Twitter, which I'll be the first to admit.
You're terrible when it comes to Twitter.
I'm horrible on Twitter because I think Twitter is just a cesspool. It's a bunch of people bitching and complaining and shitting on each other. But every once in a while,
that's pretty much Twitter.
I'll go to my Twitter and I happen to look at my inbox. And I looked, and it was literally 2 years to the day that I wrote to her. And I said, hey, Wendy, I don't know if you realize this, but it's our 2-year anniversary of me asking you to be on my podcast. And she fucking immediately, within like 5 minutes, got back to me. It was so awesome.
That's a great way to do that,
exactly.
though.
Yeah.
That's a great way to do that.
I just wanted to make it
But
light,
she was
like,
so generous with her time, her stories.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely.
I love the funny bad gig story. I love asking that question of comics. We've had guys that have been doing this 3 years. We have people that have been doing this 30 years.
But I love how she
and
goes,
I love
got
when you have an
5.
experienced person like this and you bring that up and they go, I have 5 that popped into my head.
And then as we were talking about other ones, she's like, I got 5 more.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
it was awesome.
It's such, she used the word community.
It really is.
And it is, when it comes to comics, we have such shared experiences. They're different, but they're all very, there's a commonality.
There's a commonality, absolutely.
And, that's one of the things that she brought to this. She brought some unique experiences, but yet within the sphere of commonality that I really enjoyed her.
But what I love is I think she enjoyed it because I don't know if she realized how tied to the Boston community we were. And when she brought up like Zito and Bean, and we're friends with Chris Zito. We've had him on the show.
Exactly.
And when, she
Rich
brought
Seisler.
up Rich Seisler. I think she realized like, oh, these guys know the same guys that I know. And it made her feel more comfortable, hopefully. It was an awesome episode.
It was phenomenal. She is a sweetheart of a person. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
I have even more of a crush on her now.
I know. I know.
And again,
when you brought up her husband, dude, I didn't know any of that till tonight.
See, you think I'm bullshitting when I say I researched the show.
You don't normally.
I don't normally.
But you put some work in tonight.
No, but lately I have been. And when I saw the Sherman Brothers, I was like, I remember them. I think I watched the documentary on her father-in-law and his brother.
That was
amazing stuff.
That
was
was
so
amazing.
Much. We only scratched the surface with them, but we hope you enjoyed this show. We love doing this. Again, we've said it at the beginning, but please tell a friend about us. We're trying to share the podcast with more people. So if you know people that like podcasts and they're not listening yet, let them know about us. 5-star written review.
Great
Patreon.
way to help the podcast is a 5-star written review.
Absolutely. And listen, we've got some great shows coming up. We start Scottober soon. But next week on next Wednesday, we're going to be talking to Jimmy Cash.
Finally.
Who is a hilarious comic, but has blown up on YouTube on TikTok as the janitor with stamina. He does all these funny videos from his school, and they're hilarious. And we're excited to have him on.
He's blown up on TikTok. He's a great comedian, and he's a great guy.
And then we roll into Scottober with first week we're gonna have Satori Hawes and Cody Debian.
First week,
first fucking week, my friend. They're gonna be.
I got a thing that week.
No, you don't. They're gonna be bringing in some artifacts from the haunted museum that they run. The second week of Scottober, we're gonna have Joe Chin from Ghost Hunters International. That's gonna be an amazing show. The third week, we're gonna have an episode with Andrea Perrone from the Conjuring house. She was the older sister. If you're familiar with the movie The Conjuring, she is the real life oldest sister from the Perron family.
And
who
she
was
wrote
in
a book on her
Conjuring 1,
real experiences.
which is very different from when we met
Right.
her last year and we talked to her. It's very different from what happened in The Conjuring. She's like, listen, scary enough shit happened in our house. They didn't need to embellish on it.
So if you want to hear some real stories about what really happened, tune in for that episode.
that's going to be great. And then the last episode of Scottober, we've got Ken DaCosta from Rise Up Paranormal coming on, and we're going to talk about the investigation that we did at the Payne House.
And all I'll say is there was a very funny moment.
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell it. You got to tune in that night.
Yeah.
There was a very funny moment happened due to my uncomfortableness with paranormal investigations.
It was a very, very funny moment, but it's going to be great. We're going to have a blast. And our buddy Tom Stewart is going to be the co-host
for the whole month,
all through the month of Scottober. So it's really going to be fun. And then we're rolling into the end of the year. I've got a couple of guests booked. I'm not going to say it yet. A couple of folks.
We're going to have a great November, and then we roll into the end of the year in December.
The best of the best of episodes. But we are going to try and get the mixtape guys. So they mentioned us on their podcast on this week's show.
Awesome.
That they were supposed to be on, and because one of the guys, his dad had a health issue, they couldn't come on. But we're definitely going to do one with them before the end of the year.
And I'll give them another shout out, you guys. I've been listening to that on a regular basis.
They're so good.
The Mixtape podcast. They talk about stuff from the 80s and 90s, and if you grew up in that time frame, if you listen to music, watch movies, TV shows, anything from that time frame, these guys discuss that stuff, and it's like hanging out with your buddies and taking a walk down memory lane, and they're hilarious.
Yeah.
These guys are, their chemistry is so good.
You could tell they've been friends for a long time, and that's what we want to talk to them about. So, when I reached out to Jason, who kind of runs the podcast, I said, hey, here's my vision. Like, we'd love to talk to you for the first half hour, like you guys, about how you got together, how you decided to do a podcast, how you came up with the concept, and then the second half kind of do what they do, and have them come up with a topic for all of us to discuss.
Exactly.
So it's going to be really fun. So hopefully sometime in November or the beginning of December, you'll hear us on with the Mixtape podcast. But listen, folks, we really appreciate you guys listening. We have so much fun doing this, and we hope you have fun listening. Again, tune in, and other than that,
we will talk to you
next week.